Today's lesson is Meet the Calorie. Hi class, today's lesson is Meet the Calorie. All foods have calories and different foods have different amounts of calories. So a calorie is the amount of energy or heat it is required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. So calories are provided by the 3 macronutrients that we find in foods: fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. Now, the number of calories in a food is a measure of how much potential energy that food possesses. So 1 gram of carbs or carbohydrates contains 4 calories. So if you ingest 10 grams of carbohydrates, you'll be ingesting 40 calories. If you ingest a gram of protein, it also offers the same caloric value as a 1 gram of carbohydrate. And fats are the ones that contain the most amount of calories per gram at 9 calories. So foods that are high in fat will contain the most calories. Now be aware though of the big misconception when it comes to fats and how sometimes people decide to buy foods that are low in fat. Be aware that foods that are low in fat typically are sweetened with sugars to give it their taste. Fats offer a plentiful a flavor in foods, so does sugars. So be careful when you're buying foods that are low in fat, so to speak. Understand that fats are important. These 3 macromolecules are important in your typical diet. But what's important when you're taking in these foods is that you are taking in good quality fats, you're taking in good quality proteins, you're taking good quality carbohydrates, as we've discussed in the previous chapter of healthy eating. So energy is what fuels our body in the same way that gasoline fuels a car. Human beings need energy to survive, to breathe, to move, to pump blood. We all acquire this energy from food. So if we don't eat, right? So people who are on this so-called diet, and diet is such a big misconception. People assume that dieting means eating less. No, it's not. It's vital to understand that you are eating healthy choices. That's what a good diet entails. A good diet entails you eating a sensible meals throughout the day. And of course, there's always room in your week to indulge a little bit in some of the foods that you enjoy, but everything in moderation. Anyway, how many calories do our cells need to function? That varies from person to person. So you may notice that nutritional labels that are found in foods that you buy typically have this percent daily values, and understand that typical percent daily values is based on average of a 2,000 calorie diet. So you taking in approximately 2,000 calories. Understand that the average person, based on age, weight, and energy levels, really vary anywhere between 1,800 to 2,200 calories. But understand that this is a pretty good caloric intake to be taking in daily if you are little to no physical activity possible throughout your day. But understand that it is important to be active in your day. So as we said before, weight, gender, age, and activity level all affect your caloric needs. So let's look at some nutritional facts here. So a few things to note in these is the following. So here we have our percentages right? So here we have two turtles. So think of those chocolate turtles, so chocolate, pecan, and caramel turtles that you might indulge in during the Christmas season, and breaking down and saying, like, look at the amount of fat found in it, look at the amount of carbohydrates in it, look at how much protein in it is in it. Okay, and also understanding really what other vitamins and minerals can be found. Here we've got oven roasted chicken. Notice that in something like chicken, look at the carb intake. There is 0 carbs. So carbohydrates are important to be taking in your everyday life, and carbohydrates you should be taking about 50%. So making sure that if you are planning to have, let's say, an oven roasted chicken breast for a lunch or for a dinner, make sure that you have some quality carbohydrates in the form of maybe brown rice, or some quinoa, some vegetables, some fruit, all vital to have as sides. Potatoes, or maybe sweet potatoes, all vital in terms of bringing in your carb intake. And the last set of nutritional values that I want to share is the comparison between orange juice versus one whole orange. And a lot of times people think, well, hey, it's freshly squeezed orange juice. It should be healthy. And understand that, yes, freshly squeezed orange juice is just squeezed oranges, but understand that you would be taking in a lot more calories, because let's face it, this caloric intake of 120 calories for a 250 milliliter glass of orange juice, that's very little. And I know from back in the day when I used to drink orange juice, I didn't stop at 250 milliliters. So you really don't want to be taking in your calories in with liquids that will not necessarily fill you up. But eating a whole orange will fill you up, because it also contains fiber. Okay, so it also contains fiber, which, if you look at the carbohydrates, there is 0 fiber in orange juice, unless you're getting, of course, with pulp. But anyhow, imagine, right, a simple glass of orange juice, you're looking at anywhere from 6 to 9 oranges required to make that little glass of orange juice. So imagine, can you sit and eat 6 to 9 oranges in one sitting? I know for me, pretty much after 1.5 oranges, I'm tapping out. So, physical activity consumes a high number of calories. Physical activity includes everything from making your bed to actually physically going out for a jog. Walking, lifting, bending, moving around burns calories, and the number of calories you burn in any given activity depends upon your body weight, effort, and the intensity that you do it in. Okay, so if you go for a light jog, or even a walk, if you increase the intensity, maybe increase the effort, maybe carry a backpack with some weight in it or some books to add weight to it, that will increase that effort that you're doing that walk in, and which will result in you burning in extra calories. Different people have different caloric needs. So there is an equation. I don't expect you to memorize this equation. And this is called the Harrisbenedict Formula. And it can be used to calculate your resting metabolic rate, your RMR, which is sometimes also known as your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. Now, once you have your RMR, you can easily estimate, remember that it is an estimate, your total daily caloric needs. So understand this is not an exact science. It's all a ballpark. Okay, so those of you who are thinking about counting calories, be very, very careful when you are counting calories. Because remember, it is not an exact science. And understand that you do want to change up your caloric intake if you are being very active. Anyhow, your resting metabolic rate refers to the amount of energy your body uses when you are completely at rest. And that will vary based on your height, weight, and age. Incorporate some physical activity to it, and all of a sudden you can increase the number of calories. Here is the Harrisbenedict formula. So this is the formula for females, and below is for males. So here you'll know that the RMR will vary between females and males based on your weight, your height, and your age in years. So you throw those numbers into the calculator and you can make your calculation. And then once you make that calculation, you can multiply it by these factors here to determine how many extra calories you can take in based on if you're exerting light exercise, moderate exercise, heavy exercise, and very heavy exercise. So understand that very heavy exercise does not necessarily mean that you are, just because you're working out twice per day, how heavy is it? So how much are you sweating? How much might you be lifting? So understand that can vary from person to person. For this assignment, Meet the Calorie, you're going to track your meals for 2 days and try to pick 2 days where maybe you indulge a little bit in your eating. So put in the dates. And in here, what I want you to do is include the actual food or drink item and try to include how many cups or how many grams or how many ounces of food or drink that you accumulated. Google search, there are many sources online that will give you exact items. And they'll give you all this information, the calories, the number of carbohydrates, and the amount of sugar found in those meals, as well as the number of fat in grams and proteins. So do that for your breakfast, for your lunch, for snacks throughout that day, and dinner. And then what I want you to do is I want you to add up your calories, the amount of carbs, the amount of sugars, the amount of fats, and the amount of proteins. And do the same thing for the second day. And at the end, there are some follow-up questions that I want you to include. So do the best. Try to expand on all the answers as much as possible, so it gives me a better understanding that you understand about these caloric needs. But understand this. I noticed that in your reflections on your SMART goals, a lot of you talked about wanting to lose weight, and understand that it's not about losing the number value that you see on the scale, but trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle, trying to make smarter choices in the foods that you eat. So try to avoid goals that require you to lose weight and look at it as, hey, you know what? I want to start eating maybe a little bit healthier. Start off by maybe doing 2 or 3 meals in a week, to trying to maybe just doing 2 or 3, let's say, cheat meals through a week, if you are one of those who cheats a lot, let's say, in your meals. So all just take baby steps, and understand that in the end, that so-called weight loss, the scale can be very deceitful. I always look at it as, how do my clothes fit? Because in essence, you could gain some weight because of the muscle that you could be building, and yet your clothes, all of a sudden, you dropping a size or 2. So understand that the numbers on the scale can be very deceiving. I hope you liked this video. If you did, do not be shy to hit that thumbs up button. And while you're clicking the thumbs up, click on that subscribe to stay tuned to my new videos. Thanks for watching.